1. What is religion? Invisible forces. Every human being experiences three mysteries which do not have simple answers. We all dream, but why? We all die, but why? And we all experience natural disasters, illnesses, and tragic events, but why? If something cannot be explained rationally, what is the next best answer? We tell a story, one of the most powerful tools we have in our evolutionary arsenal. Storytelling animal. The Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung's theory of the collective unconscious presented archetypes, symbols, myths, and presence in all cultures which are molded inside us prior to our birth. Archetype refers to cultural artifacts, archaic remnants, or primordial images fossilized in our unconscious mind, found among all people from all cultures, passed down from our earliest common ancestors, perhaps the early Homo sapiens. These archetypes are repeated characters present in all religions, mythologies, art, literature such as fairy tales, as well as epics and stories. In other words, archetypes are like templates or software for us to understand our own experiences in life. For example, when we hear a story, we subconsciously compare ourselves to the characters. If our DNA is the memory of our genes, the archetypes are our collective cultural memories. From a very early age, children are mesmerized by stories. Why? Because stories teach us about the world through the victories and failures of heroes and villains. Some examples Jung gives us are the wise old man, the wise old woman, the hero, the father, the mother, the devil, and the divine. Stories have a very powerful function for our survival. Through storytelling, we emotionally bond with others. Faced with an uncertain, dangerous world full of predators and challenges, stories teach us how to overcome those challenges. If history is told by the victors, stories are told by the survivors. That makes stories extremely powerful in our evolutionary history because a person may survive through his or her own ingenuity or resourcefulness, but a community needs a glue to bond all its members. How do you glue people together? Stories and myths, which give you goosebumps, sends you shivers through your spine, and raise the hair on your back. Stories excite you and motivate you. A good analogy is computer, which is made of three main parts: hardware, software, and network. The human body is the hardware. Storytelling is the software, which includes our beliefs. Network is how these beliefs and stories are shared among people in all society. So how is it connected to religion? Well, religion is the network. The simple answer is that religion and stories are inseparable. Most tribes, communities, societies, even empires were built upon shared stories and common myths. Without a common myth, it's hard to unite an empire or a community. If the forest is where giants live, Jung argued that storytelling is where archetypes live. So every religion has a great story that convinced a tribe, then an empire. Life is like a crime novel. We all seek answer as to who did what and why. How has life come about? Of course, today's science is trying to answer these questions, but in the olden days of our early ancestors, things were explained through stories. Modern novelists start with a murder mystery with a terrible incident, for example, a dead body, therefore forcing the reader to find out who has done it. The climax is when we find out and you're relieved. Religion and religious myths are basically the climax of life's mysteries. Religion is a whodunit story with a persuading answer. Early humans faced with a few fundamental mysteries: natural disasters, dreams, illnesses, and, of course, death. Why does nature erupt, earth shakes, water surges, and wind turns in storms? Why do we dream? And most crucially, why do we get sick and die? To answer these mysteries, humans invented stories which over time turn into religious beliefs. Thus, religion was born. Whenever there's a mystery, there's always a story to be told. Imagine early humans trying to explain mysterious events like earthquakes, floods, volcanoes, storms, wildfire without knowing the scientific and geological causes. Since no human or animal is strong enough to cause these natural disasters, the logical conclusion is that there must be an entity more powerful than humans and animals. 1. Natural disasters. Early humans perhaps sitting inside a dark cave with their detective goggles on to solve these mysteries. For instance, among the Native Americans, the myth of 7 turtles explains earthquakes. When the animals get tired of holding the weight of the land, it shifts its body and the world shakes. According to Japanese mythology, earthquakes are caused by a giant catfish who lives beneath the earth. According to Hawaiian mythology, a quick-tempered goddess called Pele causes volcanoes to erupt. Not to be confused with the Brazilian footballer who also caused eruption among his fans. For example, the sandrock paintings in modern-day Zimbabwe dated as far back as 50,000 years ago, depicting animals, humans, and even hybrids, which tell stories of a creator god called Kagen, who takes different forms, like a human as well as praying mantis. These paintings tell a story of how natural events are caused by some powerful people, often humans' early ancestors. In other words, to explain what's happening now is attributed to those who came before. So, to explain nature's events, early humans needed stories which turned into religious myths, and that became the basis of an organized religion. So, what are some other mysteries humans faced? 2. Dreams. The San people also believed that life was a dream, dreamt by the god Kagen. Today, some scientists believe our world is a simulation, which is basically we live inside someone else's dreamt-up world. Leo Tolstoy famously said that life is a dream and death is waking up. This idea that the world is dreamt by somebody else is believed among Aborigines of Australia too. They believe that we are actually living the dream right now. Our paths are shaped by the primal people who basically clears the path for us as we go about in this dreaming world. It's interesting to point out that modern psychology was born out of the same mystery. In fact, Sigmund Freud worked heavily on explaining why we dream and what our dreams mean. So no surprise that even the modern religion of psychotherapy was somewhat based on this mystery. 3. Death. Perhaps the biggest mystery in life is death. The Maori people in New Zealand have an interesting story that explains death. When the world was formed, death didn't exist. The Sky Father and the Earth Mother were living an immortal life, which to this day the Sky and Earth are still alive. But when the Sky God and Earth Goddess had a baby, one of their sons wanted to sleep with his mother. So perhaps Freud was onto something as he based his theory of the Oedipus complex, in which children subconsciously or unconsciously desire the parents of the opposite sex. In our Maori myth, the boy's father, the sky god, said, "No son, that is my wife. Aren't you ashamed to sleep with your own mother, for God's sake?" So the son decided to create a woman for himself from mud. They had a baby girl, and when she grew up into a stunningly beautiful lady, her father also slept with her. Not only that, they got married and had several children. Oh boy. Once it was revealed to her that her husband was actually her own father, she wanted the earth to open up and swallow her. To escape the shame, she crawled underground to the underworld. That's where we all end up after we die. Hence, death became a thing. What happened to the children who were the result of their incest? Well, the father, who happened to be their grandpa as well, remained above the ground in the sunlight. And the mother, who was also their sister, who had crawled below ground, came to a custody arrangement. The father would raise the kids in the sun, and the mother would drag them down into the darkness. This was how death was created. The father nurtures you while you're alive, and the mother nurtures you while you're dead. So, the origin of death was an incest between a father and daughter, and the shame that it caused. In Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the origin story is the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve were chilling, but when the snake came to fool Eve into eating the forbidden fruit, Adam was fooled by Eve. God kicked him out of the garden and told them, "To the street you shall return." So humans were exiled on earth until we return to heaven or hell. But you can only return to heaven after you die. So every religion has a neat little story that explains life and death. So to conclude this segment, religion is an answer to mysteries early humans faced. Nature often didn't make sense to our ancestors, so religion came along to explain in a way that it made sense. In an attempt to explain mysteries such as natural disasters, dreams, and death, religion offered simple yet effective answers which people believed. Just as some of the greatest modern stories, i.e. novels, films, or TV shows like Star Wars, have become so widespread that they become legendary and mythical. Early great stories too became legendary and mythical, which became the basis of religions. Just as there is a myth that certain TV shows like The Simpsons can predict future events, these early myths were also able to predict events which cemented these stories to be true, hence people believed them. Even today, believers of religions and trying to convince you always point to things that their religion got right in the light of modern science. So these early myths solidified themselves into concrete religious beliefs over time. Just as we're born into a language of not our choosing, we are also born into a religion of not our choosing. So religion became the glue that kept everyone together. Not only explained the mysteries of life and nature, it also offered psychological motivation when we had a boxing match with another tribe, offered comfort when we lost the match. Religion is like a coach who teaches you, motivates you, and then comforts you. It's a winning formula. Just as the stories have an author, heroes, religion also has a creator and heroes. A creator is somebody who actually builds things. So in the next segment, I'll discuss the concept of God.